Hello, welcome along. In the next stage here, we've got everything set up with the objects from Entra ID. We've got both sides there configured. No problems with that at all. That's all working great. Now, what we want to do is actually some work with it. We want to be able to migrate user objects from Entra ID to Entra ID, and also we're going to migrate some machines as well. But in this first one, we're just going to migrate the user objects and show you how to get those across. Now, the way PowerSync Pro does this is it has what we call sync profiles, and then we can have export jobs. So what you do is you have everything configured, as you can see here with these directories. We've got the Entra ID as a source. We've got the Entra ID here as a target. Now, what we need to do, we brought all the data in, as you can see from these jobs here. If we look at the importing of the objects, we've got all our objects in the local database. Now, what we do internally inside PowerSync Pro is we run a sync job, which will then match them all up. But the sync job itself can also be set to then create the objects as well, which we then use the export objects down here to then push those new entries into the target Entra ID. Now, obviously, full documentation in those PDF files that I've referenced previously. Do have a look at those and set things up. But I'm going to show you this one instance. What I'm going to be doing is taking, let's have a look at the AD setup here. If we look here, we've got BombJack over in Cozy Mouse. We want to migrate this account. Now, we can migrate all of them, no problem at all. I'm going to scope it down to just one user and show you how to do that. And we're going to push it out the other end into, as you can see here, into the TCG. We're going to migrate them into a Planium.com. So they'll become Planium.com when they're originally CozyMouse.com. We're just going to push the accounts across and do a bit of a translation on them to get them across there. So let's jump back into the sync profile and show you how we set up, because it's the sync profile that really does all the work here. So in setting up the sync profile, we are going to need to have a simple expression configured as well, which I'm going to do first, and you'll see why this is relevant when we create it. But if I hit create on there, and we'll call this one Cozy Mouse to Planium, and I'm going to create the rule here, and it's really just a rewrite function, and it's going to be a replace string. Match type will be a match, and I'll put in CozyMouse.com. The find value, we want to replace anything with, from a UPN perspective, from CozyMouse.com into Planium.com. And we'll set that up there, hit save, and save that there. That's obviously for a little later when we create this particular sync profile. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let's go into sync profiles here and hit create. And we'll call this one, yep, Cozy Mouse to Planium. That's a good name to use. And we'll have Entra ID from Cozy Mouse across to the TCG E5 demo. You can see all of this opens up depending on the type of migration we're doing here. We're not going to use a template or an existing profile, but I will say the object type we'll use is user. The sync action, in this case, it'll be create or update. Now, if we were just doing machine migrations, we want to do matching on things, we would choose the match only. But in this case, we're going to use create or update. And it will be internal member and be a user. Now, for our scoping, we're going to use the source container, which obviously is all. Entry is quite flat. So we'll just choose all there. But I am going to scope it to one particular user. And you can see here, I'm going to use the UPN, and I'm going to import the list. Now, this is because obviously with the flat system of Entra, we want to try and lock it down to say, I only actually want to migrate one user from one to the other on this particular demo. If you want to add 100, 1,000, whatever you want to choose in there, or everybody, you can just leave it blank and have everybody. But in this case, we'll choose import list. And I've got a file set up here. If I go and edit that file for you, let me show you what's in there. I've just got one user with just value at the top. That's how we construct these files. And so when I select that, you'll find that it pops in there. So obviously I could have just typed one in, but if I've got a lot, obviously a CSV file is great for that. So the matching is going to be for what's there already. So matching, I'll create a match, and I will just say, we're going to match it on mail nickname. I can't match on UPN because it's not going to be the same. Mail nickname is your little prefix or your alias, and that will be. So we'll hit save on there and across to the mapping option. Now this one here, we'll just hit create, and it's going to be source attribute. We're going to use UPN, and target UPN. And this is where our simple expression that we set up before comes into play. So that's the translation between cozymouse.com and planium.com. So we hit save on that one as well. Now I'm not going to change anything in our little sync options here or in the user account. They can all stay the same. So we'll just hit save on that, and there is our sync job ready to run for the first time. So we do that by going into jobs and hit sync objects. Now this doesn't do any work on the target yet. It doesn't push anything out. You can sync and you can see what it's going to be doing when it pushes those objects out the other side. So there's our sync objects. We hit run, choose the profile, hit save, and job queued. If I just refresh, job finished. There we go. Now we do have a warning on this one. I wanted to do this on and show you what this is. You can see user has no mail nickname. Now that is because when we set up the sync job, let's have a look at the profile here, we didn't specify that in the mapping. So if we go across the mapping and we go and add another item, you can see source attribute, mail nickname to mail nickname. We don't need to put any expressions in there. We just hit save, save that, and you'll find if you run the job again, do sync objects and run job very quickly here, save it, that warning should disappear because we are now mapping the mail nickname, and there we go. There. So I wanted to show you that because that's a common thing that gets missed out, is the mail nickname. But now we can hit the export objects and actually do the push. Now it doesn't just write it, don't worry, we're not just going to bulldoze across without really watching what's happening. The export objects does give us a very nice what if scenario. So if I do that, export objects, and I run the job, which will be from the sync profile, and hit save. You see, therefore, it is waiting for the what if acceptance and say, yes, we do want to go there. And you can see here what it's going to show is what it's going to actually do. So if we hit here on BombJack, you can see here's our source object, there's our target, and you can see what the relationship is going to be between these particular items. Now you'll notice on this side here that the future target value is set here, but we're missing a few things like display name and the like here, and mail, good example, because what we've actually missed out when we've done our setup here, which is what I wanted to show you, was that when we do our sync profile, let me go here, we do actually need to add in all the different fields that we want to map. It's not enough just to leave these two here. If we want to map other fields across, like things like display name and office address and things like that, we do actually need to add them in. So if we hit create here, and if I choose display name, great, we can add that in. We don't need to add any different expressions on that. We can just save that, no problem. But things like mail, we will need to put that Cozy Mouse to Planium in there. Save there, and you can add any other ones there as well if you wanted to put like employee ID or any of those other items that come across, any addresses. Let's say we've got let's say you wanted job title, bring that across as well, and we might bring across, say, department is one of them, and you can bring them into here. So once we bring that in and save that, then we'll run our sync job again, which we do here, just run job. Once we do that and refresh, there's our inserts again, great, and we do the export objects again, you'll start to see that you're building up a profile of what you want the target to look like. And you can say, yes, what if, great, and just waiting there while it does it. There we go, there's our BombJack user again, but you'll see it's starting to fill things out a bit more. You can see there's our other items there that it wants to bring in, so display name, mail nickname, mail, and the like. But it's also done the translation too, which is perfect. So really, once we're happy with how this looks and how your syncing is going to be, obviously I recommend you do it with a couple of test users first, just to see what they look like. But that is essentially it. What we now need to do with the what if is we'll say accept and export, and that will now go ahead and do that for us. Now refresh on the TCG side, you can see, look, there we go. There is our BombJack user appeared which is very good to see. So now really once we've got that across, we can use the migration tool to move their mail, move their OneDrive, and perform those tasks, and then we can cut over the machine. So the machine will be in the next session. But really what I wanted to show you here was the creation of that object inside the Entra, inside the target. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.